The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Tonight at Tin Shed in Savage, we have answered a question I've long pondered. Yes, Michael Russo draws even during a pandemic. Congratulations, Michael.
Yeah, I was a little worried how many people would brave the elements and come out here. But so far, so good.
You've drawn people during blizzards, during hurricanes, during pandemics. This is going to go to your head. I'm going to have to think of a way to insult you very quickly because you're just going to, the ego's going to run amok tonight.
No, we do appreciate everybody coming out during these difficult times.
Let's get right to the big picture here. This is a historic day. We are doing this show on Wednesday night at Tin Shed in Savage, and the NCAA tournament just ruled out having fans show up to the games. I think the wrestling tournament, the NCAA wrestling tournament, just decided to go without fans. The Big Ten basketball tournament just said the rest of the weekend they're not going to have fans showing up. Major League Baseball, NBA, all the major league sports are talking about playing without fans in attendance. They've already put in restrictions for reporter access. What has the NHL done so far, and where do you think the NHL is going to take this?
Well, both San Jose and Columbus have canceled, will play their games. Columbus in the case of tomorrow night without fans in the building. San Jose, the rest of their home games through April 1st. And that's what it's gotten down to, is that the league is going to listen to the orders by either the governmental agencies or the health departments from those respective markets, and then abide by that, rather than just going out and just arbitrarily canceling here and there or banning fans from the arena or things like that, for lack of a better term. So right now, everything with the Minnesota Wild is status quo unless something changes where all of a sudden the governmental agency or the Minnesota Department of Health or the NHL tells them not to play. And by the way, I mean, this is why, again, the other day I just said this whole thing with the media crackdown was just totally disingenuous. It was just It was the league trying to get by with just pretending like they were doing something to protect players and fans of a pandemic when they just didn't want to do what was going to seem to be the inevitable, and that is potentially play without fans in the arena. And you're not quarantining these players from everyday life. I mean, they're going to Target, they're going to gas stations, they're going to grocery stores, they're going home. On the road, they're getting on team buses, they're staying at hotels, they're dealing with people. And just to all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just say, we're going to pull players from the locker room to talk to media in hallways without the public. It just made there was nothing sensible about it. And now we're seeing that really it just didn't matter from that standpoint. And so now all of a sudden it's going to be very odd going to these games. Just imagine what it's going to be like for Columbus and Pittsburgh to play that game in front of nobody tomorrow. I saw it last week. I went to the San Jose Barracuda Iowa Wild game, and that was absolutely. I mean, you have to be a self-motivated athlete to play in a game like that and get into it. And I was just shooting the breeze with Eric Stahl today about that. And, here the Wild find themselves in this playoff race, and he's like, just imagine what it's going to be like, especially in our sport, quote unquote, to have to play or potentially play without the motivation of putting on a show in front of fans, being inspired by fans, motivated, things like that. I mean, just imagine the cavernous feeling it must be to play a hockey game with so much on the line in front of nobody. And we're getting closer to that potential. It seems like it's just going to happen. I mean, it is. This thing is spreading around the country like wildfire right now, and man, it does seem like that's where we're headed, doesn't it?
Yes, I think everything's going to get canceled. Right now, we are tentatively scheduled to be back at Tin Shed on March 25th, 7 o'clock. If we cancel that show, we will definitely try to give you as much notice as possible. We do appreciate people showing up tonight, especially to hang around a carrier like Michael Russo, but I don't even know whether to joke about it or be dead serious about it. It's obviously a major health issue. It's also a little bizarre to be living through a time when people are going to be playing games with nobody in the stands.
Yeah, no, and just reading a bunch of stuff today on the pandemic. I mean, there are some experts saying that 40 to 70% of Americans are going to potentially get this, and that's just an unbelievable number, and so that's why it just does seem like it's absolutely inevitable here that people we know are going to wind up with this virus, and not that that's a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly seems to be spreading, and now the risk here is to allow these games to be played with 15 to 20,000 people in there and just have it continually spread. And so at this point, it's just like, if you can limit that interaction, it just seems like that's where from a risk standpoint that these leagues are trying to do is try to keep people from that potential. And it is. I was thinking of it today. I mean, three reports are that 3 San Jose TSA agents have confirmed cases of COVID-19, and so flight attendants, pilots, air travelers. It just seems like this is going to be something that right now can't stop. This is also the first pandemic that I think any of us have lived with in the social media world.
Yes.
And man, that just makes it even scarier because you just have now everybody chiming in real time with their opinions and facts and what they think are facts, and so it's just gotten to that point now where it just seems like we're in unprecedented times, and these leagues are trying to deal with it the best that they can. And just from a revenue standpoint, just imagine what's going to happen if all of a sudden fans are not being, permitted to come to these games. I mean, that is a huge bottom line issue for that the NHL and their owners are going to have to deal with. It's going to affect everything from league revenue to salary cap next season, everything. So Absolutely. New times. I mean, just imagine if you're a general manager now having to proceed not knowing specifically what the salary cap will be for next year. Everything that was given to them in terms of numbers last week by the NHL are conceivably irrelevant right now.
This is our hockey show on TalkNorth.com. Check out the new TalkNorth.com website. Follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Check out our new outdoor shows. If you like outdoors, we have a massive amount of new content up there. Thank you to our sponsors, Tin Shed, Grey Duck Vodka, Twill, Fixology Repair, and Tony Hoagland. Thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. Brandon does have a microphone. Come on up and ask a live question anytime you want during the show. We will get right to you. We'll also answer some Twitter questions. Brian from Tin Shed gives away wild tickets, and those are suddenly very valuable again. Come up and fill out the form. Drop it in the bowl. Obviously, you have to be here to enter. You also have to be here to win. Whenever Brian picks a date and announces the winner, you need to be here to win. And we've had some people who first try when Brian announced the name, people stepped right up and were able to go to a Wild game. So thanks to Brian for that. Any chance something happens before the Wild Vegas game tomorrow night?
It would need to be in order. The Wild aren't just going to do it. It's going to need to be in order from the governor, from the Minnesota Department of Health, or the NHL, or a combination of those people. So, earlier today, the Columbus Blue Jackets said that they were going to have the game in front of fans tomorrow. Then a couple hours later, it was pretty much ordered that they shouldn't, and then they changed their policy. So, so absolutely, right now, I think the game is going to be absolutely normal tomorrow, or when this comes out tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. But But as we see in this fast developing story, anything can change quickly.
Absolutely. What was it like in San Jose? I mean, just in terms of was it a paranoid atmosphere?
Well, not that I recognized. I mean, we were at the very, very beginning, and that's, by the way, why I was so pointing out how disingenuous it was by the league, because the second that Santa Clara Department of Public Health put out last week their suggestion that the San Jose Sharks cancel the Minnesota Wild game, I emailed people with the league, with the teams, and seconds later I was told, no, the game will go on. And then the next day, it's like to distract, we're going to crack down on the media on having them in. And the reason why, again, just to paint the picture on that story on why it just made no sense, is that that these players were being pulled out of the locker room to talk to the same reporters, only in closer proximity, only now in a public hallway with staffers walking by with like mops and kitchen materials, and it was just absolutely ridiculously stupid. And so it just, to me, put the players in more harm's way if this was at all a legitimate concern to have players and media not coexisting within feet of each other. I mean, even right now, if I want a player on a one-on-one, I just get him. I'm allowed to get him on the side. We're still allowed to do that. So, that was my big thing. But in terms of that, now just to be clear, the San Jose Barracuda Iowa Wild game last week, when there were 50 people in there, that had nothing to do with the coronavirus. That's just what they draw. There's a reason why they're building a new arena for this attached to the Sharks practice facility for the Barracuda in San Jose to have a couple of thousand seat place, so it doesn't look so ridiculous. But in terms of the people that came to the game, I didn't witness any paranoia. I was at the airports all weekend, and I didn't. There were the odd person wearing a mask or things like that. And the one thing with that is that when you see them with the mask, you don't know if they've already been have a confirmed case, because that's really all the medical experts say is the mask accomplishes. If you're sick, it helps you to stop spreading it, but it's not going to keep you from getting it. So. There were the odd person wearing masks going through the airport, but I recognized absolutely no difference in traveling at all. So that was good. Now I go to Philadelphia Friday. We'll see if that changes.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go to Fort Myers on Monday, and I'm still curious as to whether I'm actually going to be on that flight or not. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be interesting travel restrictions. I do think that companies are going to start to restrict, unless it's an absolute must to be there, people to go to high-risk states. And right now those high-risk states are places like Washington, California, New York. And the Wild do have a game at Nassau Coliseum, their third to last game of the season, that I'm supposed to be at. We'll see if that continues.
Yeah. Let's actually talk about the Minnesota Wild. We have a lot to talk about in that regard. We do want to thank one of our newest sponsors on the network, Grey Duck Vodka, Minnesota's vodka.
When we asked you to get the duck out, wow, did you respond? Grey Duck Vodka is now in over 1,500 locations and expanding every day. This is Chad Greenway, and I just want to say thank you for making Grey Duck Minnesota's vodka. With the wonderful ingredients from Minnesota farmers, Grey Duck is gluten-free and has won 3 gold medals for taste. For all upcoming events and a list of locations carrying Grey Duck, head to greyduckspirits.com.
Please drink responsibly. Grey Duck Spirits, LLC, Lakeville, Minnesota.
Get the duck out.
All right, so to get to actually what is usually the main topic here, the cool thing about the Wild surging the way they have is it reminds all of us that in sports there's always hope. You don't know when somebody like Fiala might emerge or somebody like Stalock might get hot and change an entire season.
Yeah, and they absolutely have. Kevin Fiala has just been the greatest story that I've covered, in a couple of years with the Minnesota Wild. He's absolutely looks like he's turning into a star in front of our eyes. He's at a long pace now of 18 games where he's just scoring almost every single night at will. 14 goals, 12 assists in his last 18 games, 10 multi-point games. Every single time he gets the puck, you just think something brilliant's going to happen. His teammates think of it too. They're trying to put the puck on his stick, and he's scoring every which way too. He's scoring beautiful goals. He's scoring with incredible shots. He's doodling around opponents, and he feels it. And every time you talk to him, he makes it very, very clear that he is a super confident player right now that thinks that he could be this on an 82 game pace, not just an 18. And so, we've seen flashes all year in early November when he started to break out of that slump. Remember, he had no goals in October, and then he gets a fluky goal against the St. Louis Blues, and then it's really been a different player since. And then he started to heat up for a lot of November, slowed down a little bit in December and January, and then really since the calendar turned February, he's just been absolutely one of the best players in the National Hockey League. So that's been outstanding to see. And you're right, with Stalock, I mean, the Wild have absolutely needed this. I think that if you read the quotes the other night after the game from Devin Dubnyk, he's aware of the season he's having. And he said it after the Anaheim game that he gives up some of these goals and he feels bad that he's letting people down. And Stalock's come in and he's got 20 wins. I made a joke on another podcast the other day that he has, at the time, 3 fewer wins than Sergei Bobrovsky, makes $9.5 million less than him. So he's done absolutely everything that you can ask for from a Wild perspective this year, and he's gotten them back in. And now we'll see if it can continue here. 13 games left, 6 in the next 9 days. Huge games coming up, tough opponents coming up. A home game against Vegas, then you go to Philly and play the hottest team in the league, one of the best teams in the league in the Flyers. Then you come home the next night and you play Nashville in a must-win situation. Then you go to Chicago, where, as we know, next week, Patrick Kane loves to light them up. And then on a second of back-to-back, you go to Winnipeg, where things haven't gone well for them in a while. So these are big-time games coming up that they've got to reel off points, and we've seen it. They get points, they're in the playoffs. They lose a game, and they find up on the outside looking in. So they've put themselves in a position here where they've got to, in my mind, they've got, 77 points right now?
Yes.
They've got to win 9 games to get in, 9-4.
They're 77 points, 1 point behind Nashville.
9-4, 8-4-1, maybe.
Winnipeg.
It's gonna be interesting.
So with Stalock and Evason, it was pretty obvious that both were hired. Both were in situations where they were fill-ins. Can either or both win enough to claim the job going into next year?
Evason can. Stalock probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not coming into next season with Stalock as their number one, so they've got to figure out their goaltending situation. And look, that's harsh truth. I mean, they're just, they're not going to go into an 82 game season next year and just pronounce Stalock as their number one, in my opinion. But Evason, if this team continues to play hard and can get in the playoffs and actually do something in the playoffs, he completely can put himself into the mix of being the full-time head coach of this team, which who would have thought that, a month ago. I think that when the decision was made, he was put into a situation that he was probably in peril of losing his job completely if they missed. And now he's shown himself to be, the situation that they're in. He's shown himself to be a quality coach that looks comfortable behind the bench. He certainly has gotten more comfortable in his post-game interviews. He seems to be liked by these players. And I do definitely think no matter what happens that Billy Guerin's going to go through the process of looking at every coach. Now, if they win a cup, it's going to be like Berube last year, where all of a sudden you just knew that the interim coach was eventually going to become the full-time coach. But absolutely, he's got a shot. I think he does.
I'm wearing a Twill shirt tonight. Today I had some business meetings. I wore a really nice fitted jacket and dress shirt. They have stuff no matter what you want to do, especially this time of the year, getting ready for golf and outdoor season in Minnesota. Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill _Edina on Instagram.
I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We love the clothes, and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
One of those business meetings was with me, and I even pointed out that I liked your jacket.
Yeah, you actually did. And by the way, I pointed out that you bought another watch.
Yeah, we went to we met at a Starbucks in downtown Minneapolis, and then I left there to go work at a Starbucks around here. So nothing's changed with me.
But you didn't bring your
Starbucks hop.
You didn't bring your 32-ounce holiday coffee mug, or cup over today.
No, I do have a lovely.
What is this, by the way? This
is
really
from
pretty.
Annette and John over
Oh,
there.
well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Some tea. They're trying to get me off the coffee.
Well, good luck with that. Don't put it on eBay.
Yeah. No, don't worry.
What's the next most pressing issue for the Wild right now? I mean, we've talked about,
whether or not the season's going to continue.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mean, this is getting, it's very clear that the government agencies and the health departments are doing everything possible at this point to try to contain this thing the best that they can. I mean, it surely seems like a wildfire right now, and if they are starting to think that the best way to contain this and to try to limit the amount of people that catch this illness is by not having mass events, you do have to wonder if what this rest of the season consists of. I mean, could you imagine NHL playoffs without fans in there? I mean, but it surely seems like this is going to get worse before it gets better. As I said, this is unprecedented in at least most of our lifetimes, and certainly in the social media world, where just everything seems to be worse in the social media world. So, I saw some numbers today that said that between 40 and 70% of people worldwide are going to at least, get this illness. Not that is all, lethal, but if 0.5% or 1% is, it's a large number. So they're going to do everything possible. This is obviously a very contagious illness, and we'll see what the rest of the season looks like. So that, to me, is the most pressing thing, is if all of a sudden we're going to have home games here and have nobody in the arena.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Dubnyk before. What's his mindset now? Is he feeling any better because he at least got in a game and helped?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think he's won 3 of his last 5 starts. If I'm thinking correctly, he won at Dallas, he won at Vancouver, he won the other night in Anaheim. I mean, he's given up goals in those games. Vancouver, the game in Dallas was by far his best game of those 5. But you're right. I mean, he hears the outside noise. I did a podcast with him on the Athletic app when we were in Edmonton, and he makes it very clear that as much as you don't want to listen and don't want to read, you hear about it. And so he said in that quote the other night, he goes, I'm beyond the point of listening to or caring whether or not what people think of the goals I give up or how many goals I give up. So, clearly he knows at this point that they're going to ride Stalock here. And Stalock, for the most part, has done a really quality job in the games that he's gotten in. The LA, to me, game was, first of all, the floodgates came off late, but he was victimized by the players in front of him that night. I mean, yeah, as he says, and he's the most upstanding, accountable goalie I think I've ever covered. He'd like to make some saves there on some of those turnovers, but the reality is that that game was derailed by the players in front of him, not the goaltending. So I think that Doobie at this point knows that this could be it for him this season, that he might get in a couple more times if needed. And then I don't know what he thinks about the future beyond this year. I do think that beyond this year, that Billy Guerin's going to have to make a very difficult decision regarding the goaltending next season, because you just have to improve it. All the analytics say that the reason why the Wild are not significantly better in the standings is because of their goaltending this season. And so you just got to fix that going into next year. So does that mean you buy him out? Tough decision for a guy that's close to being the winningest goalie in Wild history, but this is a business and it's a cheap buyout, and Billy's going to have to make that decision if he can't move him. And as we've talked before, it's going to be hard to move him. So that's, if you ask what's one of the big offseason questions, that's definitely going to be one of them.
Is there any chance? Because it's easy for me or a fan to say, oh, you know what? He had all these problems with his wife's health this year. He obviously couldn't focus very well. Is there any chance the team looks at it and says, you know what, we're going to give you a mulligan on this season and bring you back?
Potentially. There's no doubt. But, to do that, you better be very, very confident that the players in that locker room are confident with him and net coming in next year. And that's another question that maybe doing their due diligence, Billy's going to have to figure out after this year, because, look, I mean, you're right. I mean, this is a real life situation that he's had to face. And just imagine the distractions that he's been going through. I mean, I was talking to Eric Stahl today, And some of us knew some of the stuff going behind the scenes with his father-in-law. But this has been going on for 2 months, and just imagine the distractions that's caused him in his life. So, and now, so this is real life stuff. I mean, you can't discount that thing. So, yeah, they can give him a mulligan, but the reality is he's coming into the last year of his deal at a very cheap contract at a pretty reasonable buyout, cap hit, which makes it a reasonable buyout. And I just think that Billy's going to have to seriously decide next year whether or not he can come back with a Jude McStaylock tag team.
Who do you like from outside the organization if they had to go get another goalie?
See, it depends to me on what they think of Kakkonen. If they do think that Kakkonen in 2-3 years could be the number one on this team, then you've got to figure out a way to get one of these free agents on a shorter-term deal. And no free agent that goes into UFA wants to sign just for 2 or 3 years. But that to me means that you can't go out and give sign a guy to 4 or 5 or 6 year deals. So, there's Markstrom out there, there's Robin Lehner out there, there's potentially Corey Crawford, there's going to be other guys, I think Khudobin, Halak, they're definitely, this is a year where there are going to be options. And remember, the buyout window is June 15th to June 30th. So what that allows you is to get into the free agent interview period and really get a good sense on whether or not you could sign one of these guys. And if all of a sudden it is somebody that Billy thinks, hey, this makes sense, then that could potentially force him to pull the trigger on a buyout. But this is way premature. I mean, it's probably not even fair that I talk about that here coming up, because things change quickly in this league. I mean, we look. A lot of us thought that Victor Rask would never play again because of his potential buyout this summer and how you don't want to risk him having a season-ending injury. And then all of a sudden he comes out the other night and scores a gigantic goal in Anaheim. Who knows what happens? I mean, Devin might be a very important piece still to what the Wild want to accomplish this season.
Nashville, Vancouver, Winnipeg, all 1 point ahead of the Wild. Who do you think are the biggest threats to stay ahead of them?
They all have things I like about them. Nashville's starting to play much, much better. Their goaltending hasn't been great this year, but Saros has been much better than Rene. They're to me a scary team if all of a sudden you get guys like Duchesne, Johansson, Granlund, who's been sensational since he's taken over, since Hines has taken over. Arvidsson, I mean that's a team that's got a lot of potential threats there that can really get them on a roll here, and we're starting to see them play that way. They have 2 games left against the Wild. Those 2 games are going to really could potentially be, I mean, including the last game of the regular season where the Wild are just god awful in Nashville, where the Wild potentially could have to win that game to have to make the playoffs. Winnipeg can light you up. Their blue line's really, really not been great since they got rid of guys like Trouba and they lost Bufflin, and Myers went to Vancouver. So their blue line is easily vulnerable, but they've been getting great goaltending from Hellebuck all year, and they offensively can outscore teams if their blue line is a liability on nights. I mean, Ehlers is having a fantastic year. Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler. There's a lot to like about that team. Vancouver, to me, is probably the team that should be the one that could wind up on the outside looking in. So they're getting Besser back, though. I do like Minnesota here in terms of their overall depth, but you do look back on some of the games that they've blown this year, and this is why they're in that situation. If they just win in LA the other day, they're still coming out of this bye week, this mini bye that they're in a playoff spot. But they go and they don't take care of business. You look at that Florida game where they blew in regulation, being up a couple goals there in the third period. There's so many of those type of games this year that can wind up haunting them at the end. But right now, I like the way that they're playing on an everyday basis. They've so far survived the Soucy injury, which is pretty impressive. They went the road trip without their number one center and won 2 out of 3 games. All these teams have flaws. All these teams have reasons to like them going down this final 13 games.
Again, we're live at Tin Shed in Savage. TinShedMN.com is the website. You can find directions there. You can see their specials. They have coupons. They have buy one, get one with 3s. They have kids eat free nights. I'll give you a little more detail on all the specials they have here. Great space, tons of TVs, lots of room, games. beer specials, everything. TinShedMN.com. Also want to thank one of our longest-running sponsors, Fixology Repair, FixologyRepair.com, downtown Minneapolis, downtown St. Paul, and in the Mall of America, third floor by Nordstrom's.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
So if you want to ask live questions, come on up. Otherwise, let's start with some Twitter questions here. From MJ, basically facetiously asked if we ever covered sports during a pandemic. I'll kind of...
I covered the mumps.
Yeah,
a couple
you
times.
covered the mumps, and I covered the Twins during the 1990s, where there were times sitting in the Metrodome in the press box, the crowds were so small, I could hear Tom Kelly calling instructions to his players.
Yeah. When I went to that San Jose Barracuda game last week, I wanted to scream from the press box for Tim Army just to see his reaction, because that was his eerie. I mean, that was a good, really example of what it would be like to cover one of these games empty. That was unbelievable. It was just an awful, awful experience. I mean, even just to watch. So I can't imagine what it would be like to play. It would kind of be like when, during training camp, it's closed to the public and we're watching a scrimmage out there. And in those situations, the players play like it's a scrimmage. And so it's going to be one of those tough things. But I've never, I covered the mump situation. That was scary. We were, that obviously they never closed the locker rooms for that. But it's certainly, I don't know, it just feels like we're getting, I don't think we're at DEFCON 1 yet, but I think we're getting there. What's up, Paul?
I'm being polite to everybody else that might touch
Thank
this.
you.
Oh, nice.
Appreciate it.
As you spit into the microphone part,
Yes.
though.
I have 3 questions, two about Fiala, one...
I got to tell you, that's not going to stop it from spreading, you having a napkin around the
I don't have it that I know of. How's that? 2 questions about Fiala and then one about you.
No about me.
The other night in San Jose, you tweeted that some of the San Jose players were roughing him up, and the Wild bench did not like that. And me, being an old North Star fan, thinks of the Blackhawk rivalries and Dino and that kind of thing. Are the Wild going to need to get an enforcer?
No.
They really don't have one, unless you count Foligno.
Yeah, I mean,
Or is it just
no teams in the league really have enforcers.
Okay.
I wouldn't waste a roster spot. Would you like Donato in the press box for an enforcer?
Well, no, of course
Yeah.
not.
So I don't remember actually
Rasp,
tweeting
maybe.
that, but the one thing about what I don't remember tweeting that about that they were roughing him up and the Wild bench didn't like it, but maybe I
Find it
did.
for you.
The one thing I do remember is, and this is something that I've never seen before. Maybe this is what you're thinking of, is that when's the last time that we saw a Wild player get the McKinnon treatment and be shadowed all night by Anze Kopitar? I mean, that was fascinating to watch, and that says everything right now about the respect level that Kevin Fiala has by other coaches. So,
When does Guerin extend him?
extend Fiala?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you have to have conversation with his agent this summer. But if I'm Claude Lemieux, I want him to do this over 82 games and take a bet on himself, and he does it next year, then he's going to hit a monster contract. If I'm Billy Guerin, I could see him also saying, I want to see you do it again over 82 games. Because I don't want to take anything away from Kevin Fiala, because this is the best that we've seen a Wild player since Gabbert play. But let's keep it in perspective. He's done this for 1/4 of an NHL season, right? 18 games out of 82. Hopefully, hopefully by the end it's 30 out of 82, and we're seeing him do it for almost 40% of an NHL season. So to me, I still think you want to keep that carrot out there. And so I could see both sides wanting to play it out next year and just let, if I'm Claude, I want to see unless you can hit that projection contract now, I want to wait. And if I'm Wild, I might want to say, let's see if I can do it over an 82-game stretch.
When has he signed through? Next year?
Yeah, next year, but a restricted free agent. So, unless it was an offer sheet or something, which it wouldn't be most likely, the Wild have total. They will retain his rights if his contract ends.
Outside of hockey, what's your favorite sport to watch?
Does poker count?
No. Out of the
Why doesn't that count?
Out of the four big.
Out of the four major ones, probably baseball. Definitely baseball. Yeah, I'm a big baseball fan. I definitely like it. I used to be a huge Chicago Bulls fan when MJ and Scottie Pippen and Cartwright and Paxson, all those guys were there. I absolutely love the Bulls. I used to watch every single Bulls game on WGN. I emulated Red Clay. Wasn't that the PA announcer? I used to love that. But I would say baseball definitely. But I'm a poker fan. I mean, if I'm flipping through the channels, I either stop at Live Poker or Live PD. You ever watch Live PD on A&E channel? Oh, it's awesome. You ever watch Live PD?
No.
It's on Friday and Saturday nights, like 8 to midnight or 8 to 11, and it's like cops but live, like 8 departments around the country. The dumbest criminals that you've ever seen, alleged criminals that you've ever seen. But it really gives you a sense. Like some of these places are just, they had Missoula County in Montana. That's obviously a very different call than Pomona, California, right? Pomona, California, the cops wear like blue jeans and they're like all gang task force got people. I almost went there to see if I can get on Live PD last week when I was in California. I just thought, we'll kind of go there.
As a criminal?
And the other thing,
Yes.
I figured. And then, the other thing about Live PD that's interesting too, and I can name the cops like they're celebrities. Like you get to know the cops. There'll be a cop that'll show up and you're like, I hate that guy, like he's or you're like Officer Ross from Tulsa, my favorite cop in the world, there's an Inspector Travoka or something from East Providence, Rhode Island, just the greatest accent. It's like listening to John Torchetti. They got. There's a couple counties in South Carolina on right now, a couple counties in Florida, Tallahassee. There's one cop there I love, one cop there I don't. So, Live PD, it's great. So,
What's wrong with you?
it's awesome. Then they have like all the offshoots, right? They have Live PD, body cam, Live PD, police cam, like all those. They have Alaska PD now. That's a place. You don't realize, Alaska PD, you do not realize how dangerous it is up there. Like it's the end of the earth, essentially. And it's got more guns than like people up there. Plus grizzly bears. It is, drugs galore. It's harsh. And they are understaffed. Like they have some cities there that essentially, like even places, big cities like Fairbanks that have like 2 cops on at night. It's crazy. I can't wait to watch tonight. I missed this past weekend, and you can watch it on demand. So, what's up there?
We know what you'll do when you're quarantined.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have a few questions. If you were to see the Wild in a playoff match, who would you kind of want them to play? Like, who do you think they have the best chance to?
Yeah, definitely Vegas. And I, not only do I think that I would enjoy it the most, but I think that they actually would have a chance to beat them. I mean, playoffs are a different thing, so it doesn't matter that they're 6-2 against Vegas in 8 all-time meetings. So the playoffs are an absolute different animal. That team is playoff tested for the most part. I mean, we certainly know Marc-Andre Fleury is. We certainly know that Carlson Smith and Marchessault are, but you know that guys like Pacioretty and Mark Stone and those guys are going to be absolutely motivated to go far after last year's debacle in San Jose and did things for them. So things could be very, very different going into that building in that type of environment, but I do think that the Wild have a better chance to cross over in the Pacific and play and excel than if they were going to stay in the Central Division, that's for sure.
I was also curious how Wild fans are traveling this year on away games. I haven't really.
Not as much as previous years. there really hasn't been a ton of ability for them to travel. If you think that most people have, jobs and school and stuff, really over the winter months where you would be able to go on over Christmas holidays or something, the Wild have been at home. I mean, they went and played 3 or 4 road games in like a 7 or 8 week span. So, I haven't noticed, and those places aren't the most appetizing places for a Wild fan to travel to. But I was a little surprised in California on this last trip that there weren't more fans, because usually the Wild really travel well out there. But Vegas they always travel to, Phoenix they always travel to, but all that stuff was done in the first half of the season. So
Oklahoma City, I think it must be either during the early part of the game or right before the game, just announced that due to unforeseen circumstances, the game tonight has been postponed. Thank you for coming, fans. They basically canceled a game while people are at the arena and told them to get out.
And it's because of this?
Yes. Well, I mean, they didn't say that specifically, but that is the assumption at this point. From Logan Jensen, I know everybody wants to know who's going to center the top line next year, but I want to know who centers the fourth.
That's a really good question. I mean, my guess would be Nico Sturm. I just don't see them offering Mikko another 1-year deal.
No,
so
I would think not.
And I do think that, the one thing I would like to see is them to, give one of their minor league guys a chance rather than go out and sign a third or fourth liner to the Wild have done it for as long as I've covered this team. They give like some veteran grinder a 3-year, $2.75 million yield deal. And it'd be nice to just give that job to somebody within. So, what's up?
Okay, so GM question here. That right now that the GM search here that we down here. So with the emergence of Fiala, do you still think there's a little bit vindication for Fenton, even though he could be a jerk?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, apparently this game in OKC was canceled because a few of the players are ill. So,
wow,
that's interesting. In terms of your question, I mean, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I could promise you, without speaking to him specifically, that Paul, I'm sure, is feeling pretty vindicated. And so, yeah, I mean, the reality is that for an organization that since Gaborik has not had a game breaker, he told us he was acquiring a game breaker. Many of us doubted him. And he looks like a freaking game breaker. There's no doubt about that. And the other thing where he really could feel vindicated is that some of us critics who were mostly critical of the fact that he only singly tried to acquire Fiala for Granlund and didn't open up Granlund to the entire league, now we're seeing why, right? One of my biggest criticisms of the trade at the time wasn't so much that I doubted that Paul Fenton knew Kevin Fiala before instead of most of us, but that he only focused on that one guy. So essentially, in my mind, David Poile had him had all the leverage when it came to acquiring him. And again, as I've said from my sources, he actually almost gave up more with Granlund to get him rather than the other way around where you just thought the Wild would get another asset with Fiala. So absolutely. I mean, clearly Fenton made the right move here. And he got a guy, I know it's a short term, again, small sample size, blah, 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 blah. But remember, the deal here is that as good a player as Granlund, he's 28, 29, where Fiala's 23. So regardless, the potential of Kevin Fiala at this point to grow with this team and be an absolute stud is through the roof compared to somebody that's, entering the peak years of his career.
So looking at Tom Fitzgerald, did you imagine what would happen if it was Tom? Because he was given the difficult task here of filling in for Ray Shero here.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, he did a great job at the deadline, Tom Fitzgerald, the Devils' interim GM. If Tom Fitzgerald had gotten the job over Paul Fenton, one, he'd still be the GM, 100%. And two, I can promise you that one or two of Niederreiter, Granlund, Coyle, Zucker would be on this team still. There's no way he would have gotten rid of all four. But there's also an incredible chance that Kevin Fiala wouldn't be on the Wild. So as maybe painful as last year was and as regretful as it was for a lot of people in the organization, because it was a very tough year and tough summer, apparently, because whatever Paul did over the summer to get himself fired didn't have anything to do with his player acquisitions, had to do with more, morale and things like that. The reality is that it got him Kevin Fiala, so not all bad. So.
Okay, so one last question here. I mean, I'll be honest here. I was part of the guys here saying that the Wild should probably tank.
Yep.
I mean, the centers aren't available. They don't fall from the skies here. You don't get a 28 center here to be your number one to try to win cups here. So going forward, do you think that Billy's going to be, going to parlay some of the 1 or 2 picks here, try to pull off something, get somebody like Ryan O'Reilly? See.
Well, they're not. You mean like a Ryan O'Reilly type trade type thing? I mean, I think that's his goal. I mean, look what Ryan O'Reilly did to the St. Louis Blues. I think that he would absolutely love to, figure out a way to go get a true number one center for this organization. And but you're right, they don't fall on trees. They are very hard to come by. And it's going to take a lot of work this summer to try to acquire that player. It could be painful because it could cost him Brodin and Dumba. And the second you get rid of Brodin or Dumba, you're like, oh my God, the top 4 isn't as good as anymore. And, as good as Stalock has been, as good as Kevin Fiala has been, in my mind, one big reason why the Wild are even alive right now is how good Suter, Spurgeon, Dumba, Brodin have been for the most part here for a couple months. So.
And I will offer this reminder, too, as we kind of relitigate the Fiala for Granlund trade. As you said, Fenton didn't get fired because of personnel moves.
Yeah, if he was personnel moves, he would have been fired in April.
Right.
He was fired in late July, where nothing was going on for a month. I mean, and by all accounts, Craig Leopold was all for the Zuccarello signing. So it wasn't the Zuccarello signing that was his nail in the coffin. It was all the stuff going on behind the scenes that I wrote about in my story. But you're right. I mean, from a vindication standpoint, from a GM, if he could have just acted decent to his staff,
right, he'd still be here.
He'd still be here,
and we'd be,
and to the media.
Yeah,
I mean, it's that simple. But in hindsight, I mean, now you look at some of the moves he made and some of the reasons he did things, and you're like, all right, you know what? There was a plan there that he had in his own head, and some of the moves look good. I mean, some don't,
right?
Obviously, but you're not going to swing. I mean, remember. Other than Chuck Hobasu, the first big Chuck Fletcher move was Nick Leddy for Cam Barker. GM's whiff. Mm-hmm. And so if Niederreiter for Rask doesn't work, that's fine, but he still was able to, Donato for Coyle. You understood why he did it. I still think that Coyle is going to wind up in Boston for many, many, many years and be a good player. And they're, in a situation like Boston where they've got 15 other players ahead of them that are studs, him being Coyle in Boston is a lot less glaring than him being Coyle here, and that comes out differently. I'm not saying that in any disrespect. I guess my point is that Charlie Coyle is what he is, and if you're going to expect him in Minnesota to be a star, you're going to be disappointed. But in there, he doesn't have to be. He could just do his job and be Charlie Coyle, and it's going to look great, and he's going to be there for a while. So that trade at the time made sense for both teams. Some of the other things, you do realize why he was doing some kind of stuff. So,
hi, Vicky.
Hey, how are you? Good. Do you think Matt Zuccarello is going to find his groove here?
He's played better lately. He's certainly getting points lately. He is the type of guy that's got to play with really good players, and he probably is the one that has really lacked a center for a long time. And so he's going to have to find his groove. He's got 4 years left at $6 million with a no move. So, they've got him here, and they've got to figure out a way to make it work and surround him with the right type of players that can help him succeed. I love Marcus Foligno, but Zuccarello could put the puck in a position for Foligno to score, 10 different times, and Foligno is going to probably bury it 3, right? Where if he's playing with Kevin Fiala, for example, is probably going to get a lot more points. So they've got to do something this summer to try to find him a role on this team, because he's certainly, not getting to the opportunity to be in the position that I'm sure that he expected to be in the lineup when he signed here.
Yeah, I was just thinking he must be getting very frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't show it, at least to us, that's for sure. You could tell he's a very popular teammate and things like that. But you're right. I mean, this is a lot of money tied up into one player that's only going to get older. So, you're right.
Well, Stalock, is it age? Is it lack of background? Why can't he be a number one?
I mean, I just think I hate to, be, for lack of a better term, discriminatory, but you just don't see goalies his size anymore in this league. I mean, eventually teams pick their spots against him. I mean, look how many times, I don't want to give scouting reports to other teams, but look at the Trocheck goal. I think it was against Florida. I look at the goal the other night against
the LA goal coming in from the right side.
Yeah, I think
right.
it was a home game, but the one down the right wing where it's a left shot and they put it against the far post. I mean, those are bad goals. Those are goals that would not go in against bigger goalies. There's a reason why he's got to skate out to the circle to try to cut off the angle there, to try to make himself look bigger, right? And so I think that eventually, he's been on a heck of a groove, and he is really effective at being that cliched third defenseman out there to really help them get on the attack. But I just think eventually, now we haven't seen it so much the last month and a half, but for the most part is that you play him 2, 3, 4 games, then he kind of reminds you why he's been that backup type where, but again, I don't believe that that's what happened in LA. I just think that that Wild didn't play great that game. But I just don't think you can go into a season and just expect him to be the number one.
Yeah, I knew when Bruce was there that he didn't really have that degree of trust in him.
Yeah, which is, it's just shocking to me because there's such a mutual respect. Like, Bruce loves Stalock, and Stalock loves Bruce, and yet you're right, he just always stopped using him. Yeah. And I will say, there wasn't the greatest mutual love between Dubnyk and Bruce. Oh. And yet he always went back to that well, right? It was always interesting to me.
That's interesting.
But, coaches are like that. You never understand. I remember I covered Val Bure in Florida, and Mike Keenan hated his guts, and yet he loved Pavel Bure on the same team. And I used to always be just fascinated by that, that he could treat Pavel with these kid gloves and just show his love for him, and yet just go after his brother all the time. So.
Well, Philip would like to know if you were teasing this when you were talking about the possibility of Jack Eichel being a trade.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's a 0.1% chance. Yeah, you're right. I mean, sometimes Dan Myers, if you know Phil. God, I didn't mean that with disrespect. I honestly my mind went blank here. What Phil's discussing is on my podcast last week, Dan Myers talked me into basically discussing a potential Jack Eichel trade to Minnesota. And, Dan Myers is the same person that thought Patrick Kane could be had at one point in his career. If you're Buffalo, and I don't want it, Jack Eichel signed long-term. If Jack really wants out of there, who cares, right? You control him. And if you're trying to build that team into a winner, Jack's not the first person I'd try to trade. So... the chances of that's probably very little. But my point was in entertaining Dan Myers during that part of the thing is that, what Dan is saying and what I do agree with is that if you're Billy Guerin, you can't just be like, oh, Nylander, when we don't even know if Nylander is a really center, right? I mean, you've got to open the door to try to get other guys. And so what I was saying with agreeing with Dan is that if you're Billy Guerin, you at least say to Buffalo, you say to Florida, you say to Detroit, you say to these teams that have had really disappointing years, is there anything we could do to get, nobody's untradeable, right? So, maybe McDavid, maybe McKinnon, but, say to Buffalo, hey, things aren't working for you right now. What can we do? Say to Florida, hey, you haven't won a playoff round since 1996. Go to Detroit and say, all right, you're just getting this number 1 overall pick. Do you really need Dylan Larkin? Like, there are ways to just at least make those calls. That's my only point, is that if you really want a number 1 center when there's not a lot of number 1 centers out there, you got to figure out a way on how to pluck them. And I don't think that a lot of people thought Tyler Seguin was available at one point. So.
Well, based on your travel expertise, should I go on my cruise in 3 weeks?
No.
I would not go on a cruise right now.
No.
Unless it's that one in San Francisco, because you can go for dirt cheap.
It has nothing to do with the West Coast or Asia.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sit there and get sued by the cruise industry, but they certainly seem like freaking petri dishes, don't they? They seem to always spread the love.
I kind of hope that half the people cancel, so it's an empty ship.
Yeah. I would call back and try to get a big, big, big suite for much less money than you paid.
It would probably work.
Yeah, it probably really would work right now. I'd probably risk a cruise if I get like a 2,000 square foot suite on the end of that, like the Symphony of the Seas or something. It'd be nice.
Well, thank you, Vicki.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck either way.
Just hold my breath all cruise.
Hey, thanks to Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund. Your State Farm agent, handles my insurance, handles Michael Russo's insurance, and he's been great to work with. Hoaglund.
Every team knows that the two-point play can be a winning move. That's why State Farm agent Tony Hoagland and his team are here to help you go for two by combining your home and auto insurance. It's a great call that saves you time and money. So go for the win and score savings by combining your home and auto. It's just another way we're here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at 763-421-4900 or online at ChamplinInsurance.com.
That little kid back there, he kind of sometimes reminds me of Clyde. He just looks like he wants to go. He's been dragged here.
Clyde, you guys can go take a walk. You don't have to sit here.
Kid's like, all right, can you end the show already?
That's how I feel usually.
Yeah. Captain?
Gentlemen, thanks for not closing the
doors.
doors.
All right, so I got a Minneapolis to Philly flight, a Philly to Minneapolis flight, a Minneapolis to Midway flight, a Midway to Minneapolis flight, a Minneapolis to Winnipeg home. Then I got to go to St. Louis, LaGuardia, Atlanta,
I left them off till the
Nashville.
20th.
Yeah.
Done.
You think I'm fine?
Yeah. The Delta just put out a deal that showing they use this fogging deal now in between flights. Supposed to take care of it. Now, the lady that puts her seat back and sneezes on you, that's a whole
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. Like, that to me is the scary thing of this whole pandemic, is like, I could be as clean as I know I can be, bathe in Purell, wash my hands, but I'm at the mercy of that person, And the people that I do feel bad about now are those people on these airplanes that cough, right? You just have one cough, and now everybody's just staring at you, wanting to throw you off the plane while you're in the air. And that was happening. I flew from Anaheim to Minneapolis the other day, and there was somebody a couple seats in front of me that was just coughing the whole flight, and people were visibly not nervous, agitated with this person. I felt so bad for this woman.
Just allergies.
Yeah, it was just allergies. I do feel a little under the weather,
since we're talking
though.
flying, we were talking North Star's old Blackhawk stuff. You know what Al Secord's doing these days?
He's a pilot for American, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but thanks for not closing the doors on us. You mentioned a little bit at the beginning some of the consequences of shutting down. But as you think about it, in a strike here, there's no revenue, but there's basically little expense.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to have to cut the expenses. Does that mean they have to just flat out shut down the season?
Well, that's my biggest concern here is that, somebody asked me on Twitter today if teams have insurance for this type of thing, and all big businesses have business interruption insurance, but whether or not it covers you in the event of a pandemic is really up in the air. And I can promise you all these teams have checked in with their policies today and are getting the same, like, well, we don't know. And that is an absolute concern right now. And regardless, it doesn't matter if somehow these teams, have some sort of insurance policy that covers them in the event of a canceled season. It's not going to stop the salary cap from going down next year. It's going to easily go into revenues. And this is just one facet of our society right now. Just as your industry right now is just, freaking look at Delta's stock right now. Look at Marriott's stock right now. It's
What
crazy.
a buy opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go on my Robinhood app when I leave here. It's tough, man. I mean, this is
So if they delay the season rather than canceling it, how long do they have to delay it before Kaprasov gets over here?
Yeah, wow. I didn't even think of that. Could you imagine if next year, like all of a sudden they push back the starts of the season? It'd be kind of like when the Wild signed Parisi and Suter in 2012, and everybody was all excited, and then they had to wait till January. Imagine like Kaprasov's like, I'll just play one more year in the KHL. Man, let's not think about that right now, right?
What's interesting is that some leagues make most of their money from television revenue.
Yeah.
So the NFL, if they played games and couldn't have fans in the stands, they still make a lot of money.
Same thing with the NBA. I mean,
Same
the
thing with the
NHL would be
NBA.
devastating.
Baseball and hockey need people in seats to make a profit.
Yeah. My best friend in the world, he's the vice president of tickets for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't even want to guess what he's dealing with right now. I'm guarantee he's still at work. Mm-hmm. This is rough. I mean, and that eats into, again, just imagine account executives that make their money on commission, and this is unprecedented times here. And this is just one small trivial thing in the world. I mean, people like legit people are getting sick. If it's true, 70% of the world is going to get it. Hello. Some people in here, that's just the way that this thing is. So, hopefully they just figure out a way to best control the symptoms. And, I think the vast majority of people, from what I'm reading today, are just going to feel like sick like a normal virus and then get over it. But, obviously if you have underlying factors or an old or out of shape, it's more of a big thing. So they're just trying to figure out a way to stop this thing as much as they can from spreading further. And that's why I just think that what we've seen today with San Jose and now Oklahoma City and Columbus and the NCAAs is just going to get worse and worse here. Like, let me just tell you, I mean, I've talked to the Wild today. They are, that their doors are open tomorrow night as of now, but they are absolutely, they are prepping. I mean, they've talked today to, experts on how to handle this, medical people, experts on disinfecting the arena. All the presidents of the teams had.
I hear a fogger takes care of it all.
Yeah, I know. So they should call Delta and figure that out. So.
All right, I'm going to change the subject. Once again, we're doing the show tonight.
It's been another uplifting Russo Suhan show.
Yeah, we always make people feel better. We are doing the show tonight from Tin Shed and Savage, as we've been doing for quite a while now. Our next scheduled show is March 25th here at 7 o'clock. We appreciate everybody who came out tonight, risking your lives. We do appreciate you coming out. And a reminder about Tin Shed. TinShedMN.com is the website. You'll see Michael Russo's picture on there. They have birthday parties, sports teams parties, company holiday parties. They have take and bake pizza for fundraisers with 50-50 revenue split. You can order online. Monday it's buy one, get one free pizza, any size, any topping. Kids eat free Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's just a small amount of all the great deals they have. So if you're coming by, check out the website first, TinShedMN.com. Yes, sir.
So, regarding a question about the Wild defenseman and the possible offseason, because we're going to lose one. Mm-hmm. If it's either going to be Brodin or Dumba. Mm-hmm. Any chance that a team might inquire on Spurgeon?
Yeah, but he's got a full no move, and I just don't know if he'd want to waive that. I think he's signed here to stay here. Where the other guys don't have that type of protection, right? So I think more than likely you trade one of those. I will say something has happened here in the last couple of weeks that might have changed everything, and that is the fact that if the Wild don't play 18 more games, and that's if Soucy returned tomorrow, which he's not even close to returning, Soucy, if he doesn't play 18 more games with the Wild, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. And so that's a huge thing. Now, my guess is that Soucy sees a future here and wants to resign here, but his contract just got a heck of a lot better. I mean, now he could potentially be available to the open market. So if he's now talking to the Wild, he's going to want a 3 or 4 or 5 year deal at well over 2.5, most likely. And that is to make everybody understand that when you're 25 years old and you've been in the league for 3 or more years, a professional for 3 or 4 years, if you don't play 80 games, including playoffs, by the time that your season ends, you go from being a Group 2 like he is to a Group 6 unrestricted free agent. And so if he doesn't play 18 more games this season, he could take advantage of that and become an unrestricted free agent. So the Wild will try to get with him early before, obviously, July 1 and try to extend him. They could technically start that conversation now. But again, we don't technically know, like he has the chance to become an unrestricted free agent. We don't know that yet. If the Wild, say he got back with 10 games left in the year, so in 3 games, very unlikely, then what that would mean is the Wild would have to play 8 playoff games. If he gets back with 5 games left in the year, the Wild would have to play 13 playoff games for him to continue to be a restricted free agent. So I guess what that's also telling you is that now that he's hurt, that might really change what you want to do with Brodin until you know 100% that you're getting Soucy back. So
the other thing was regarding Koivu. If let's say he does decide to come back on a very team-friendly contract, what happens with Nico Sturm?
Just real quick, breaking news. Clyde, Vicky. President Trump just announced that all air travel between the U.S. and Europe will be suspended for the next 30 days, beginning on Friday. Yeah. So, restriction does not apply to the U.K. So, that would probably put the World Championships in peril as well. So, question was on Sturm.
Yes, if Koivu does re-sign for a team-friendly contract.
Yep.
What's going to happen with him? Are we going to keep him around in Iowa?
Well, that would be the option. So he would get, he would be down there, yeah, most likely if he didn't make the team out of camp. So that's another reason why I just think that's probably it for Mikko. I think in his own mind, Mikko is expecting that this is it. I think he's put that in his own head here. I think that's one reason why we're seeing him play so hard and well, and kind of like a weight's been lifted off him lately. I think he's kind of resigned himself to that and is content with it. But we'll see. A lot can change. I overheard him leaving Anaheim, and somebody that knew him came up to him and said, "Is this the last time I'll see you?" And he basically said, "We'll see." So, I don't think he's ready to announce anything.
A couple more Twitter questions, and then we'll let everybody get on their way. Thank you for coming up and asking live questions. Thanks for sending all the Twitter questions in. We just ended up not getting to a lot of them. We'll try to do more of them next week. From BSteph12, what are Suter's chances in the Norris discussion or Spurgeon's?
Probably not very good. I do think Suter's had a really good year. People do look at points. I think he'll be up there in the top 5 or 6 like he's often been in the past, but most likely, especially if they don't make the playoffs, I don't think he is.
From Mac Nelson, any chances the Wild or the NHL explore hiring more European coaches instead of always hiring kind of the Canadian or American retreads?
Sure. I mean, it really depends on who those people are. Obviously, it depends with the language and whether or not they can communicate well, like a guy like Ralph Kruger can.
Maybe the last question of the show. We'll see here from Kevin Fiala, supporter. What is the weirdest superstition you've seen a player enact in the locker room? Do you have one?
Off the top of my head?
Well, while you think...
we do see the stuff that Galchenyuk does before games on the bench. He does sort of just kind of like a spastic sort of like, thing. Just watch him after the anthem tomorrow night. And by the way, people have been, putting those videos up of him doing this on Twitter, saying this is what I'm referring to about when he has his tantrums on the bench during a game. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about legit tantrums where he's kicking the bench or punching the bench when he's angry at himself on the bench. This is before the game. He does sort of a weird kind of, you got to see it. He's an interesting guy. I interviewed him alone after the game in Anaheim the other day, and his quotes were just so good. The remote control quote, I don't know if everybody saw that. It was, about how that puck came to him, and it was like a remote control to his stick, and it was just such a good quote. So, and I talked to him after the game in L.A., and I could tell you he was much better after the game in Anaheim. So it just shows you how these guys are so much better after victories. It was funny. I got him alone in Anaheim, and he's kind of a close talker. And I was thinking to myself how ironic it was that I kept on having to push back from him, in this media ban where we're not allowed in the locker room because we don't want to infect these guys. And he was just like I just kept on backing up until the point that I was like up against the wall. It was kind of funny. So Galchenyuk's a funny guy. He works his butt off too, man. I don't know if you isolate your eyes on him sometimes during his shifts, I don't think that work ethic is really anything that he could ever be accused of not having. He works his butt off. And he's physical. He's a lot more physical than I ever thought he was.
All right, let's get a final thought from Michael. Again, thank you for coming out. We do appreciate it. Thanks for supporting Tin Shed and all of our sponsors. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. And again, check out probably the best way to listen to this show or any of our shows on the network these days is find your favorite podcast app and just subscribe to the whole network. Shows are just rolling. One of my partners was driving back from Montana, and he said he just kind of put it on Talk North and just shows to cycle through. It's like listening to radio, only better. So that's a good way to listen. Let's get a final thought from Michael, and we'll all get out of here and go spray hand sanitizer all over your entire bodies.
Just final thought is with just thoughts with my friend Chad Graff. Chad, if you follow him on Twitter, Chad Graff, Graff. He's our Vikings writer. He's been a longtime friend of mine. He came. I make fun of him all the time. If you read when we hired him at The Athletic, I wrote a story about him. You know how it's become cliche when you come to The Athletic. Why I joined The Athletic. I decided to write that for Chad, and it was me roasting him for an entire article with some laugh out loud funny stories. And so he and I have been friends since he got to cover the Wild right out of college. Before he even graduated out of the University of New Hampshire, he was covering the Wild for the Pioneer Press. When I came to The Athletic, just to show you, I'm way, way older than him, and he sort of counseled me through going to The Athletic because he just, he's somebody that's really in tune with social media and this kind of online world, and he had really respected The Athletic. So right when I was hired, I knew I wanted to hire him to cover the Vikings, and he and his wife, Sam, had a really very difficult pregnancy a couple of Mondays ago, and their daughter's now been diagnosed with Zellweger syndrome and does not have long to live. And they're in the University of Minnesota Masonic Hospital. They have a Caring Bridge site up. They also have a GoFundMe site up because to defray some of the costs of the medical expenses that they will have here. And any overages to that, they're going to donate to Children's Masonic Hospital as well. Giles Farrell, who's one of the Twitter followers that a lot of people probably know if you're a Wild fan, he does gifts of a lot of Wild games. We throw his stuff on The Athletic. He's basically, we essentially steal his gifts like they're our own, like he's on the payroll or something. He did an amazing thing. He reached out to me this morning, and I was late, coincidentally, getting back to him because I'm on the Professional Hockey Writers Association board, so I was dealing with some PHWA issues. One, coincidentally, to make a donation to the GoFundMe page on behalf of the PHWA, but also, for some of the access issues and things like this that we're having that I've got to deal with in the Western Conference, because part of my role in the West is to deal with access issues from the teams out here. And so Giles reached out to me, and it took me a while to get back to him, and I didn't know what it was about, and it's the most incredible gesture that he did, but he came up with this thing during the Wild game on Thursday night where fans could go on his Google, Google Doc page and put on there what you want to donate. So say $1 for a Stalock save, $10 for a Parisi save, just to keep track of what you want. And then afterwards you could compute what you want, what the donation winds up being, and then you can go on, yourself, it's not automatic, you can go on the GoFundMe page and make the donation based on your calculation of what your donation is going to be. So Giles Farrell, Giles Ferrell, I believe on Twitter, has that up if you want to just read more about it, and it's to again support just a crushing experience that Sam and Chad are going through right now. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And I could tell you, I talked to Chad on the way here. This kid is so strong, but man, his wife and him are so touched by the support that they've gotten. Originally, their GoFundMe page was going to be for $2,500. They've upped it already, I think, into $25,000. The donations they've received from people today. I mean, Richard Pitino's on there and made a donation. There's been other anonymous donations of $1,000. I know the PHWA, the Athletic Minnesota, we've all donated as well. Colleagues of mine throughout the country that I didn't even, don't even know if they're really friends with Chad or know Chad really well. They've donated them. So it just shows you in times of need how just incredibly warm-hearted people could be. So that's kind of my final thought, and just all the best to Chad and Sam and their incredible daughter Anna that unfortunately won't be with us for too much longer. Yeah. Tough deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thank you all for being here. We won't ask you to applaud Michael tonight. Be safe. We hope we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks for everything.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in